After transmigrating into the story as the affectionate second male lead, I used my knowledge of the plot to get ahead. My plan was simple: rescue the heroine before she fell into the lake, cut off her tragic entanglement with the scumbag male lead, and guide her gently into falling for me instead. What I didn't expect was to pull the scumbag male lead out of the water instead. Worse, after growing up, he wanted me to be his wife. I wasn't having it. But this towering 6 feet 3 inches man hugged me tight and murmured, "Darling, don't leave me." Welcome to He History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. As kids, I had to muster all my strength and everything I'd ever learned to pull the drowning boy out of the lake. Sitting on the damp grass by the water's edge, I was panting, soaked from head to toe. Luckily, we were still just kids and the water hadn't been deep. The boy lying beside me was pale, eyes closed, long lashes resting against his cheeks. Still as stone. My own lashes were dripping wet, blurring my vision as I wiped at my eyes. Bracing myself, I placed my tiny hand on his chest and began CPR with all the strength I could muster. Despite knowing he was the male lead with protagonist protection, I couldn't help but panic. Maybe it was because I was a transmigrator trapped in a child's body, but I was genuinely afraid Jonathan Winston might die. And this was a life, after all, my brother. Even if he was destined to be a scumbag later on. My CPR was textbook. Just then, the heroine arrived with a few uncles and aunties in tow, face full of worry. "Someone fell in," she cried. So that's where she'd gone, off to get help. Somehow, fate had flipped things around. Spotting the approaching group, and even a few familiar faces, I called out brightly, "Kelvin! Ryan! We're here!" My childish voice cut through the commotion, drawing the adults over quickly. A kid drowning was bad enough. But another kid pulling him out? And performing CPR? 2 bodyguards shoved through the crowd, ours, no doubt. They froze in horror upon seeing the scene. One moment unsure whether to feel relieved to have found the young masters, the next terrified at Jonathan Winston's unconscious state. Just then he coughed, spluttering water from his mouth. His lashes trembled. He was awake. The bodyguards rushed over, scooping each of us into their arms and carrying us away from the lake. On the shoulder of one guard, I turned to wave at the heroine. "Thanks for getting help. Bye." She waved back, bright and cheerful. "Bye, Flip." See? What a sweet heroine. And yet she'd grow up into a hopeless romantic, falling head over heels for a heartless playboy. One who saved her from drowning, thus making her believe in love at first rescue. That was the original story. The heroine and male lead got separated from the adults at the park. She fell into the lake. He saved her. She fell for him hard, even as he tormented her emotionally and physically. It wasn't until he almost cheated on her that she finally woke up. Then came the classic, male lead chases wife to the crematorium arc. Meanwhile, I was the gentle second lead, childhood friend to the male lead, but not particularly close. Why do latecomers win the girl? Because the early ones never fight for her. So I fought. I'd planned to steal that rescue moment and rewrite fate. But somehow, I saved Jonathan Winston instead. At least everyone was safe. At the hospital, the director had already heard and sent a team to wait anxiously. We'd changed cars midway, and both the Winston and Taylor families had rushed over, terrified. Fortunately, Jonathan was fine. After a thorough checkup, he hugged me and cried, snot and all. I tried to get off the bed, but Mom gently said, "Sweetie, don't be like that. Your little brother is scared. Can you stay with him a bit?" I frowned. I was only a few days older than him and didn't want to be the older brother. Being an older brother meant looking after the younger one. No thanks. Mom saw my scrunched up face and chuckled, ruffling my hair. "You were very brave today, Flip. But you scared Mommy too. Next time, don't wander off without an adult, okay?" I nodded. Mrs. Winston, eyes red and puffy, was the most shaken. Her husband was away on business overseas, and she had been beside herself with fear. Having saved Jonathan, she held my mother's hands tightly, endlessly grateful. While the moms spoke emotionally, I glanced over at Jonathan. His face was dry now. The crying had stopped. "Flip," he said softly. As I looked over, his lips quivered. He was about to cry again. Despite his cold and handsome features, he was such a crybaby. I pinched his cheek. "No crying." Jonathan bit his lip and nodded eagerly. Then, "Can Flip sleep with me tonight?" I was tired too and still just a kid. After all the day's chaos, I nodded and lay down. It was a sweet room and the bed was big enough. We both fell asleep quickly. I woke up hot. Jonathan had come down with a high fever, sweating buckets and heating up the entire bed. But by the next day he was bouncing around again. We lived next door, so he came over every day. Right now, we were lying on the tatami mat doing puzzles. "Daddy doesn't come home," he mumbled. Mommy cried. I was still too young to process complex emotions. "Did you try comforting Auntie Miranda?" Jonathan nodded hard. "I did. But she cried even harder. Did I do something wrong?" He leaned his cheek on his little hand, confused. I kept searching for puzzle pieces. "You're just a kid. You're not a bad guy. Of course you didn't do anything wrong." Whoa. He pounced on me out of nowhere. I was already lying on the floor, so it became a full-on faceplant. "Flip." "What? Flip?" he wailed, moved beyond words. I nearly rolled my eyes. Don't be fooled. This clingy baby was tall and sturdy for his age. I, on the other hand, was leaner and lighter. With him crushing me like this, I almost lost my breath. I honestly didn't enjoy playing with him. Always crying. Always needing me. But he adored sticking to me. Sometimes he'd sneak over at night in his tiny slippers, scaring his mom half to death. No choice, I'd let him sleep over. At least he always shared everything. Even with cake, he'd save me the biggest piece. In elementary school, I got mistaken for a girl because I was too pretty. The class bully pulled my hair, and Jonathan beat him up. He hit someone. For me. What could I do? I stood up, eyes red, and told the teacher, "Paul Harris bullied me first. He's the bad guy." I looked like a porcelain doll, and with Jonathan sporting a bruise too, the teacher couldn't blame either of us. Even the parents were reasonable. Paul got scolded and spanked. From far away, you could hear him scream, "Flip is a girl. Flip is a girl, ow." Got kicked for that. Jonathan looked fierce when fighting, but afterward he'd hug me, begging for a kiss to feel better. Like hell I'd kiss him. We're in grade school now, not preschool. When we started middle school, his dad's affair was exposed. His parents divorced. His mom didn't take him with her. He cried uncontrollably in front of me. "Flip, my mom doesn't want me anymore." I said flatly, "It's your dad who didn't want your mom. And Auntie Miranda probably had her reasons. You can't blame her." He stopped crying, looking downcast. I handed him tissues. "When are you gonna stop this crying habit?" His lip trembled. Here we go again. But knowing what he was going through, I stayed patient and kept him company until he bounced back. In high school, he finally stopped crying. He became cold, distant, his words few and far between. And right on cue, the heroine transferred into our class. What was unexpected? She didn't seem interested in Jonathan Winston. Or in me. She was focused entirely on her studies. She was smart and beautiful, admired by many. There was no painful love triangle, no damsel in distress, no need for a second male lead to sweep in. That's how it should be. But her English wasn't great, so she often came to me for help. I was happy to assist, but this made Jonathan Winston visibly unhappy. That night after evening self-study, he came home with a face like thunder. I ignored him at first, but he couldn't hold it in and finally snapped in the car. "Flip, don't you think that girl is getting a little too close to you?" His tone was sharp. We were in the same class, so what's with calling her, that girl? And that was the female lead, no less. "Her name is Ruby Smith," I replied. "She's just asking me grammar questions. Totally normal since I'm the class English rep." Jonathan glared out the car window. "You've changed." "What?" I looked at him, then scooted a bit closer. "I haven't. You're the one who's changed the most. Let me see, have you secretly been crying again?" A flush instantly crept up the back of his ears. He turned to glare at me. To be honest, I used to hate being called Big Brother. It always meant coaxing Jonathan. But now that we were older, the title gave me the upper hand. Still, Jonathan was spoiled. He declared as bossy as ever, "You have changed. Don't try to deny it. I'll deal with you when we get back." I raised a brow. We'll see who deals with who. Naturally, we both got into the same university. Not the same major, though. I told him to pick what he liked. As for ending up in the same dorm room, that was him, pulling strings with 2 different professors. I thought he'd hate dorm life. Turned out he was more excited than I was. He helped set up my bed and unpacked my stuff while I sat in a chair, scrolling on my phone and texting our parents. Lying on the upper bunk, Jonathan called down, "Flip, pass me the throw pillow from your suitcase." It was a pink and white plushie. He'd given it to me long ago. "Sure," I said, handing it up. After finishing my bed, he started working on his. This time, he told me to help him. I stood outside the room. He'd call out what he needed and I passed it over. Once everything was set, he pulled up the bed curtain with practiced ease. I had a sneaking suspicion he'd studied how to do all this behind my back. And I was right. He'd read several dorm setup guides, especially on maximizing space when using a top bunk setup with curtains. He'd even arranged for everything in advance. Now the curtain hung from the ceiling, enclosing our bunks on one side of the room. It gave the illusion of a shared private world. Jonathan seemed satisfied. So was I. That afternoon, we went out to eat. Jonathan casually slung his arm over my shoulder, fingers long and relaxed. His other hand held his phone as he scrolled through the school's online forums. Suddenly, he clicked his tongue. I was eating a popsicle, already a little upset. There was a huge bite taken out of it, not by me. How could someone eat that much in one bite? Wasn't it cold? What's wrong? I asked, taking another bite. He handed me his phone. I was just trying to find a good place to eat. But look, someone posted a photo of us and said we look like a couple. Huh. I looked at the screen. Sure enough, a post showed a photo of our backs as we stood together. The comments were full of shipping fans asking for our names, some even begging for our socials. I frowned. Can we get it deleted? Jonathan took my hand, then took a bite of my popsicle. I'll try. Hey. I glared at him. I asked if you wanted one earlier. He ignored me, pushed me forward quickly. Come on, let's go get burgers. We returned to the dorm after dinner. It felt strangely like we'd stepped into another stage of life. That night, I didn't sleep well. I could hear Jonathan tossing and turning constantly. Just as I was about to doze off, he sat up and whispered, "Flip, I can't sleep." Here we go again. He always called me Flip when something was up. What now? He climbed into my bed. Flip, my chest feels tight. I heard the creak of the mattress. Tried to stop him, but didn't, because I knew it wouldn't work. I just scooted over to make room. He lay down beside me, wrapping his arms around me. The bed's so small, I kinda wanna move off campus. He was too close. I shifted back awkwardly, but there was nowhere to go. I tried to keep calm. Dorm beds are always like this. You'll get used to it. He was about to speak again when I placed a finger on his lips. You'll wake the others, Jonathan. Feeling the touch, he went quiet. His legs were so long, they dangled off the bed. He curled them up, knees bumping against mine. Once he started dozing off, I nudged him back to his own bed. My pillow and blanket still carried the soft, clean scent of him. I fell asleep not long after. After military training, we both tanned a bit. But my skin was pale to begin with, so I recovered quickly. Jonathan didn't care. After a shower, he came out in a tank top and stood in front of me. Smell me. I'm all man now. Excuse me? Come on, Flip, he pressed in close. Smell me. I felt awkward. How does one smell someone like that? But he insisted. And I wasn't the kind of person to cause a fuss, so I leaned in and took a sniff. Warm. Not much scent. Just the body wash. Strangely, we used the same brand, but it smelled different on him. Hard to explain, but nice. I sniffed again. Jonathan's throat moved. He grabbed my arms and started sniffing around my neck. Flip, you smell so good. I laughed and shoved him away. Cut it out. He rubbed his face against my neck in retaliation. We fooled around on the balcony for a while until our suite mates came back with takeout. Did you guys eat yet? I did, I answered. Jonathan, face expressionless, pushed me into the dorm by the shoulders. He still hated living in the dorms, said it lacked privacy. On weekends, he came home with me. Slept in the same room. My mom was away on a business trip, so my dad cooked for us. Maybe because his parents' marriage had always been rocky, Jonathan came off a little pitiful. My whole family was pretty good to him. That night he tossed and turned again. Eventually, one of his legs landed on mine. I opened my eyes. What now? You can't sleep at school, now you can't sleep at home either? Jonathan sounded a little aggrieved. Flip. I don't know what's wrong with me. I figured he was dwelling on family stuff again. I smiled and opened my arms. Alright, come here. I'll hug you. He swallowed hard in the dark and threw himself into my arms, literally. He landed on top of me and took a deep breath. I wrapped my arms around him and patted his back. Don't be dramatic. I'm tired. Yawning, I was about to drift off when he rolled off me and lay on his side, facing me. Okay. I fell asleep almost instantly. But in the dark, Jonathan watched me silently, inching closer. Flip, he whispered. No answer. I was really asleep. He leaned down and pressed his lips to mine. His breath came faster, kiss deepening slightly. I let out a faint hum in my sleep. He caught my hand, pressed it somewhere below, then leaned in and exhaled by my ear. So good. But that was all. He didn't dare do more. He simply held me like that. In my dreams, it felt hot. When I woke up, Jonathan was clinging to me. No wonder I'd felt something pressing against me in my sleep. Still half asleep, he mumbled, Flip, do you think guys in the dorms actually help each other out? Excuse me. I stared at him, finally understanding what he meant. You're not serious. Isn't that gross? Jonathan Winston froze. You think I'm disgusting? I tried to push him away. You're too warm. He backed off, visibly hurt, a deep frown on his face. Got it. I tilted my head, watching him. Don't be like those people. Jonathan didn't respond. Instead, he suddenly yanked the blanket aside. I thought he was getting out of bed, until I saw what he was doing. My pupils constricted. What the hell are you doing? He looked annoyed. None of your business. Excuse me? You're on my bed. His reddened eyes turned to me. You're really drawing the line now, huh? What, do you like someone else already? This is your bed. You're kicking me out. You won't even help me. We've grown up together. I never said you were disgusting, Flip. You've changed. You're ashamed of me. Here we go again. I sat up, exasperated. Stop being unreasonable. Jonathan lowered his gaze. Then help me. I didn't dare look at that. He was tall, well-built, had always grown faster than me, and now the difference was even worse. I had no clue what that even meant anymore. I said nothing, just got out of bed. Jonathan quickly followed. I went to the bathroom to wash up, and he stopped the door with his hand as I tried to close it. Fly up. I stared into his misty, red eyes for a long moment before I finally let go. At breakfast downstairs, Jonathan was in a great mood. I, on the other hand, felt out of it. My hand trembled slightly as I gripped my fork. It was just the two of us at the table. My dad had left early to pick up my mom and even transferred a few $1,000 to my account, telling us to have fun. The housekeeper prepared a bunch of snacks for us after the meal. Jonathan leaned in close and whispered, Flip, I don't think I've ever been this happy. Do you think having sex would feel even better? I blinked at him, stunned. Suddenly things clicked. I sighed and said earnestly, You've really grown up. That's not what I was going for. We sat in the yard under the magnolia tree. It was the right season, and the blossoms were in full bloom. I held a book, flipping through it as he rested beside me. He glanced at the pages, then asked lazily, Aren't you curious? I shook my head. I just think guys who spend the whole day thinking about that sort of thing aren't decent men. I want to be a good guy. Jonathan Winston, struck by my words, visibly flinched. I don't think about it all day. He leaned his head on my shoulder. Do you think you'll get married someday? Of course, I answered without hesitation. But the moment the words left my mouth, I felt a strange twinge. I couldn't explain it. Jonathan's eyes dropped, but a smile slowly tugged at his lips. When you get married, I'll give you a very special gift. I didn't even ask what it was. Okay. He wrapped an arm around my waist and closed his eyes, muttering, Do you think any girl would be okay with how close we are? I didn't answer. A breeze swept through the garden, carrying the scent of flowers and grass. I kept flipping through my book. Not long after we returned to school, I ran into Ruby Smith. She was in the same department and class as Jonathan. I had no idea. He'd never mentioned her. She approached me on her own, bringing milk tea and sitting beside me. I skipped class today. Ah. She winked. Jonathan told me not to come see you. I apologized instinctively. Sorry. He can be like that. Don't take it personally. Ruby rested her chin in her hand. I'm not offended. I just think it's weird. What's weird? She frowned. He's different around you. I paused. Different how? Just be careful. Jonathan doesn't act like a good person when it comes to you. Then she smiled politely. Anyway, I'll be off. See you around. Thanks again. Thanks? For the kindness in my voice and the patience in my explanation. For helping her realize, after 3 years of infatuation, that liking someone was, ultimately, a trivial matter. To compromise is to sink, to struggle upward is growth. She was proud of who she was now. I watched her walk away, unaware of her unspoken affection, only marveling at how wonderful it was that someone as bright as Ruby Smith wasn't destined for the male lead. I couldn't help wondering, did Jonathan Winston really not act like a good person around me? Ruby had just left when Jonathan stormed into the room, face dark. I was lucky I sat in the back. He took a seat. A few students turned to look. Some were my classmates. I whispered, Why are you here? Skipping class? He scowled. I ran into that Ruby girl. She's called Ruby Smith. She came to talk shit about me, didn't she? I shook my head. She didn't. You're siding with her. You're being irrational. I turned away, refusing to engage. It was the only class we shared that day. Jonathan felt like he couldn't let his guard down for even a second. The truth was, he didn't hate Ruby Smith specifically. He just disliked anyone who got close to me. As a kid, he used to think even my parents were trying to steal me away from him. He knew that was wrong, but it didn't stop him from spiraling in his own dark little world, until he finally burst into tears, clutching me and crying, Flip is mine. His voice still echoed in my head. Can any girl accept us being this close? That was what he'd asked me. And for the first time, I felt fear, not from closeness, but from the fact that we'd crossed a line. I began to distance myself. It was subtle. If he tried to climb into my bed at night, I'd say it was going to collapse. If he wanted to share food I'd bitten, I'd stuff the whole thing in my mouth, nearly choking. I refused all kinds of brotherly help. Jonathan noticed something was off. One day, I was taking a nap. I woke up and sensed someone nearby. Turning, I nearly jumped. He was just standing there, tall and motionless. My heart skipped a beat. What's wrong? His eyes were shadowed. Then he smiled. I'm going out tonight. Just letting you know. I blinked. What for? Friends invited me for drinks. I won't be back tonight. Don't call. He pulled the curtain aside and walked out. Before I could fully process it, his footsteps were already fading. Then came the click of the door. I got up and rushed out after him. But the hallway was empty. Just as I was about to chase after him further, I stopped myself. I couldn't keep doing this. We had to go back to being just right. I returned to the dorm and closed the door. Not far around the corner, Jonathan reappeared. He hadn't gone far at all. Just a few steps away. He gave a bitter laugh and turned to leave. The drinking plan was real. Jonathan went out with a few other rich heirs. Some brought girls, others boys. They tried to set him up with someone. But they were hesitant. So, what about Flip? Honestly, the reason no one dared set him up with anyone was because if Flip Taylor ever found out, Jonathan Winston would absolutely lose his mind. No one would come out of this unscathed. Jonathan Winston downed one drink after another. Then, with eyes sharp as a blade, he glanced over and said, "Flip, tell me you didn't call him." "What?" He kicked the table. I said, "Did you call him?" Jonathan had always been domineering, especially when I wasn't around. Cold and sharp-edged. And yet, everyone still played along. One of the guys quickly pulled out his phone and dialed me. Jonathan was drinking heavily, cheeks flushed, but he was pacing himself, careful not to get wasted. When I arrived, he was lounging on the couch, one leg crossed, a cigarette between his lips. My expression darkened the moment I stepped inside. The noise cut off instantly. "Flip, you're here." The others, already drunk and leaning on one another, greeted me with laughter and slurred speech. I nodded briefly and walked over. Without a word, I snatched the cigarette from Jonathan's lips. He looked up at me, squinting slightly through the smoke, then scoffed. "What are you doing here?" What was I doing here? I didn't know. Only that I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't come. Stop being a brat. Get up. Let's go. Jonathan uncrossed his legs and stretched them out to the side. "I'm drinking, Flip." The others sensed the tension and tried to step in, but Jonathan shot them a glare so fierce that they froze. He turned back to me, casual again. I stubbed the cigarette into the ashtray. I said, "Get up. We're going home." My tone wasn't soft either. But Jonathan ignored me. He grabbed another drink and downed it. I snatched the glass from his hand. "Jonathan Winston." "What?" He leaned back. "Didn't you say you don't care anymore? You've been avoiding me. So why does it matter what I do now?" I struggled to explain. This isn't right." He laughed. "What's not right? I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. My parents don't care. You don't care. Flip, if you've decided to keep your distance, then go. Don't meddle in my life." Some of the others quietly relocated to a table outside. What was this, a breakup? It was rare to see us fight. I should have left. Jonathan was right. He was an adult now, capable of handling his own choices. But I didn't move. I didn't know if it was him who needed me, or if I simply couldn't let go of Jonathan Winston. Seeing me stand there in silence irritated him even more. He got up, unsteady on his feet, and walked out. I grabbed his coat and followed, telling the others, "It's on me. You guys keep drinking." Outside, Jonathan leaned against the wall and dry heaved. I followed at a quiet distance. He turned around, red-eyed. "Just go, Flip." His voice was hoarse. He knew I'd been pulling away. He knew exactly what those words meant. Go back to your normal life. He turned and walked off, long legs steady but spirit weighed down. I followed silently. He walked ahead, head lowered, shoulders hunched. For the first time, he looked defeated. Then I stopped. And after a few steps, so did he. He turned back. "Jonathan, are we," my voice caught, "are we not even friends anymore?" His expression cracked. His eyes burned red, glistening with tears. His throat constricted. "I can't do it." My chest tightened painfully. "Then what do we do now?" My eyes stung. Tears slid down my cheeks. For the first time, I cried in front of him. Jonathan rushed forward and wrapped me in a fierce hug. "I'm sorry, Flip. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The dorm was closed for the night, so we went to Jonathan's apartment, one close to campus, bought for him by Mrs. Winston. We'd been there before after it was renovated, so it wasn't unfamiliar. He was still a little drunk, face flushed, but clearly happier. Even without promises or clarity, the fact that I hadn't outright rejected him lifted his spirits. He bent down to get me slippers, flipped on the breakers, and went to boil water. Everything was tidy. Housekeeping came by regularly. After showering, I went to sleep in the guest room. I lay staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. So when the door opened with a soft click in the middle of the night, I wasn't startled. The night light by the bed cast a soft glow. Jonathan saw my open eyes the moment he stepped in. It was awkward, but he shut the door quickly, crossed the room, and slipped under the covers beside me. Flip. I stayed on my back. You can't keep doing this. He leaned closer, breath brushing my ear. Doing what? His low, magnetic voice sent heat blooming across my cheek. I didn't answer. A dark look flickered through his eyes. Boldly he kissed my ear. A light touch. When I didn't stop him, his lips moved to my cheek. I turned my head away. Jonathan, let me think. His hand slid to my waist. I stiffened, reaching to stop him, but I was too slow. He pressed against me, voice rough with want. Flip. Flip. I squeezed my eyes shut. But, is it because I saved you? He kissed the corner of my mouth, urgent. No. No, what does that have to do with anything? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Flip. I like you. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I bent my knee, trying to push him away. But I had no strength. My palms landed on his chest. It was so hot. The next day, we returned to campus. The air between us was tense. He didn't dare overstep again. Even kisses were restrained. Freshman year passed faster than I realized. Jonathan became like a puppy, glowing whenever I showed him warmth. And I couldn't stop giving it. But if I went quiet or distant, he'd look at me with those moody eyes. I hadn't meant to cross this line, but now I didn't know how to go back. Sometimes I'd scribble on my notebook, "Why do you even like me?" Outside, the wind howled, but the classroom was warm. Class hadn't started yet. He came to sit in again. Jonathan Winston looked at me with bright eyes, though they were usually cold. Under the desk, he squeezed my fingertips and whispered, "Just because you're you, Flip." No other reason. Just sitting with him felt sweet. I couldn't get a clear answer. I leaned on my hand and wondered, why haven't I rejected him yet? I hated this. I should have turned him down hard. That night, we went back to his place. Outside the apartment, he insisted on carrying me on his back. I gave in, flopping onto him. He lifted me easily. "Slow down, Jonathan. Don't drop me." My soft voice made his lashes flutter. He shouted, "Don't worry, Flip. I'll carry you for the rest of my life." Then he started to run. I clung to him, laughing. Inside, he didn't turn on the lights. He pinned me to the wall, kissed me. His breath was hot. But even in his passion, he never lost control. He cupped my face and said seriously, "Don't be scared, Flip. You'll always have a way out. If one day you hate me, I'll disappear." He would guard me. I lifted my lashes slowly. "Even if I get married? Have kids?" Jonathan's eyes reddened with pain. Maybe even then." I hugged him. "And you?" His voice broke. "I only have you, Flip." My heart pounded with unease. He saw my confused look and murmured, "Sorry, Flip. Don't mind me." I didn't know what we were anymore. Sometimes, when he was being rough, he'd whisper for me to keep my legs closed. In our second year, Jonathan started interning at his family's company. He grew more composed. We moved out of the dorms. He stopped coming to my house. I wouldn't let him. He was clearly hurt, but didn't argue. Not until he noticed how strangely my parents were treating him and realized something was off. That was when I stopped trying. During finals, I stayed on campus. Jonathan juggled work and school. I was cold toward him. The stress made him start smoking again. He'd only quit because I hated kissing ashtrays. "Flip, what's going on?" He held me gently after finals, asking in a whisper. "Nothing," I said. "Is it me? Did I mess something up?" I said nothing. Just went into the room and started packing. He saw. His face fell. He grabbed me, refusing to let go. "What are you doing? Why are you leaving?" "I'm tired." His body stiffened. That night, I didn't leave easily. He begged, blocked the door, nearly got down on his knees. The next day, he showed up at my house, eyes bloodshot. My parents blocked the door, wouldn't let him in. They looked at him like he was the enemy. That's when he realized, they knew. And all this time, I had been carrying the pressure alone, hoping to gain their support. But now, I didn't want to fight anymore. From the stairwell, I peeked down and saw him kneel to my parents. "It's all my fault. Don't blame Flip, it was me. I forced him." My father struck Jonathan across the face. He was about to kick him too, but my mother held him back. Jonathan, our family never treated you badly. You can't do this to us, or to Flip. Jonathan Winston kept his head down. His broad shoulders trembled. I love Flip, he said hoarsely. I'm sorry. Furious, my parents threw him out. Later, my mom came to my room to talk. As we spoke, her tears wouldn't stop. She was shaking. I sat pale-faced, overwhelmed with guilt. I'm sorry, Mom. Please don't cry. I won't see him anymore. But I wasn't happy. I stopped going out. I stared into space often, lost in thought. Jonathan Winston, however, came every day. He didn't care about being yelled at or hit. He even climbed the wall to see me. Flip, I just want to see you. I won't do anything. I looked at him coldly. Don't come again. His expression wilted. His lips quivered. Not even just to see you? I nodded. So he started following me like a stalker, without letting me notice. My parents took me overseas to get away from it all. I sat on the beach, dazed. Even during meals, I drifted. Nothing interested me anymore. I think I must have loved Jonathan Winston. I was just too much of a coward. While out shopping, we were nearly robbed, but Jonathan appeared out of nowhere, caught the thief, and returned my mom's purse. I wasn't surprised. But my parents were. He handed the bag back to my mom, then glanced at me, deeply, before leaving awkwardly. My parents didn't say anything for a long time. Afterward, their attitude toward him softened. Mrs. Winston visited us repeatedly to apologize, saying she and her ex-husband had failed both Jonathan and Flip. Eventually, my parents stopped opposing our contact. Truth be told, they just couldn't bear seeing me that unhappy. I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I just felt heavy all the time. But somehow, I still managed to endure. Jonathan Winston was working even harder. He handled company matters brilliantly, made time for me no matter how busy he was, even if it meant staying up all night. He followed me secretly. When I hung out with friends, some random person would show up to deliver flowers or stuffed animals. It was childish. I never accepted them. My friends thought it was hilarious. After barbecue, they left, and I wandered alone through the plaza. Snow was falling. Another year had passed. It felt like Jonathan Winston and I had come full circle. Trailing behind me was the same beautiful boy. I turned around. His eyes were red. Flip. My nose stung. He rushed over and hugged me tight. Flip. Back at his place, he busied himself getting me snacks and drinks. With his back to me, I saw his shoulders start to shake. I walked over and hugged him from behind. He choked on his words. Please, don't leave me. I'm begging you, Flip. I'm begging you. Jonathan. I let him turn around and cupped his face, kissing him gently. It had only been 2.5 months. He froze, then hugged me fiercely and kissed me back. When he pressed me down on the bed and tried to pull away, I wrapped my legs around his waist, kissed him again. His eyes darkened, voice hoarse. Flip, don't, you know I can't hold back. I kissed his lips again. Then don't. His muscles burned hot against me, but he still held back. Are you really okay with this? I am, I whispered. Then he lost control. We had been intimate before, but never fully. This time, it was real. The beginning was awkward. But the next morning, I was curled in his arms, crying. It woke him up. He sat up and slapped himself hard. The sound echoed, and I stopped crying, stunned. When he raised his hand again, I grabbed his wrist. Jonathan! He looked pale. I'm a monster, Flip. I chuckled softly and opened my arms. Come here. Let Flip hold you. His eyes grew wet again. He buried himself in my embrace. Don't leave me, Flip. I'll behave. I'll listen to everything. Just don't leave me. I won't, I said softly. When my parents found out we were together, their eyes turned red, but they didn't say anything. Even Jonathan's divorced parents came together to apologize and give their blessing. They offered me company shares, fund dividends. Who knows what else they agreed on. Jonathan clung to me constantly. If we didn't do that, he still had to hold me. I had a soft spot for him. Once we were officially together, I spoiled him without meaning to. But some of his requests were outrageous. One time, I slapped him lightly in frustration. He only got more excited. "I love you so much, Flip," he'd cry with every confession, as if on the verge of tears. After graduation, I went to grad school. He became a general manager. When I finished my degree and stayed on as a teaching assistant, Jonathan was already the CEO of one of the Winston Corp's subsidiaries. And then one night, Jonathan choked suddenly, spat out water, and woke up gasping. His mother, Mrs. Winston, had become a major name in the fashion world after their divorce. She remarried and had a daughter, but all assets were split evenly. One evening, I was reviewing student papers. Jonathan offered to help. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. He glanced over, annoyed. "Who's that?" "A soon-to-graduate student, asking a lot of questions." I, being professional, answered some of them. Jonathan's face darkened. "Stop replying to him." I glanced at him. "Okay." Gone was the shy boy. Now he was composed, intense, powerful. We were both in our 30s, but his possessiveness hadn't aged a day. At night he was rough. "Darling, touch my face." I murmured and brushed his cheek. "So handsome, Jonathan. Call me darling." Tears in my eyes, I whispered, "Darling." He kissed the corners of my eyes. "Darling, I love you." Plenty of people had tried to seduce him over the years, but Jonathan dealt with them harshly, scaring most off. There were also people who wanted to replace him. I hadn't paid much attention. Most were immature kids, I thought. But one student, after graduation, worked hard, made something of himself, and seriously started pursuing me. Jonathan found out and was furious. He sent someone to warn him. But the whole thing left a mark on him. The next morning he kissed me awake. "Darling, did you forget to say something?" Still half asleep, I murmured, "I love you." He smiled, lips curving softly. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.